Alright guys, so do you find the number of units that you can recruit in Manor Lords a little bit bogged down and limited? Do you think that archers are too nerfed or that the saw pit max logged storage needs to be higher? Well, I'm here to tell you that Manor Lords now has almost 100 mods on Nexus Mods, and if you go on the webpage, you can see all of these right here, and you can try all of them. It all works pretty well. The modders have been at it like day and night essentially since the game released to fix some of the issues in the game right now and just make it a much smoother and more balanced experience, both from a combat and an economy perspective as well. So what we're going to do today is really simple. I'm going to give you a number of recommended mods for your playthrough that you can download super easily and that will definitely enhance your gameplay experience. Just to preface this, we've got a mods folder that you need to create, as you can see now on your screen, to download these mods and unpack them using a program like WinZip or 7-Zip. Put the pack files in this folder and your game should run with them totally fine. No issues. You don't have to tick anything, enable that, or have bugs or crash issues. Most of them are quite stable, so don't worry about that. Super easy to install. That's all you do. And the next final preface before we go into it is this is an early access game, which means that with regular updates, your saves that use mods are going to be broken. None of these mods are actually endorsed by Manor Lords or the developer. They're not on the Steam Workshop because, there isn't a kind of like support system and infrastructure to support mods just yet. So all of this is quite DIY. Just keep that in mind. So going straight into it, we have the number one issue that I think a lot of people complain about, and that is the limited number of recruitable units. And there are a few mods here that resolve that. The first is increased garrison limit, and what this means is both from a cosmetic and a warfare perspective, you can have castles with more variety. More towers means more different cosmetic, interesting looking castles and manors, etc. So that's quite cool. And the other is, of course, an increased number of retinue. So you have up to 60 retinue soldiers that you can recruit per region with this, which means, if you have 9 regions in the map and you conquer 8 and get ready for the Baron's army, that's 8 times 60, which is 480 units. 480 units, which is quite crazy when you think about it. 480 can lead to some pretty big battles, but if you want even bigger battles, the next mod that I recommend is Unlock Militia Limit. So what this does is, alongside more retinue soldiers, you can now recruit more militia units, archers, spearmen, halberdiers, all of that. So much bigger armies going into this now. I don't know what the limit is here, but I've been able to recruit loads and loads and loads of units. So there's plenty of big battle opportunities here. The only thing I'll say about this is you can overwhelm the Baron really easily. And I would say to balance it out, you want this mod, which is 5 times Merc and Adversary Baron's army size. And as that describes, it basically increases the number of units that the Baron's army enters the map with. It's much bigger, as you can see, and it can lead to some pretty insanely massive battles in the game. If you want something a little more unrealistic and really combat challenging, micromanaging, this is definitely it. It can be a little overkill, I would say, but it can lead to some really massive, like just cinematic, huge medieval battles as well. So that's the final mod that I'm going to recommend here. If you want something a little bit more than this, you can make the Baron's army even more difficult with the Hildebolt Vanguard Army difficulty mod, which replaces his Merc units with militia units and more retinue units. So it just makes his army much more difficult to defeat. Next thing I want to talk about is archers. So when the game released, archers got a massive nerf to damage, even though the range stayed the same. If you put archers into a certain position, even if their effectiveness is at 100% or more, they're not really going to get in a lot of damage into the enemy. Now, there are a couple of mods that try to fix this. There's Warbow 2x damage and there's better archers, but neither of them actually do much. There are plenty of comments about, can we do 5x damage, or can you increase the range by 1,000 meters, but it doesn't really make any sense. And the modders have found that a lot of archer effectiveness depends on effectiveness. Even if you have 100 or 110%, there's certain factors that play into this value, the metric effectiveness, that people don't really understand yet. And no matter how much you try and increase damage or range, it just doesn't make enough of a difference. So at the moment, if you're looking at trying to fix the archer nerf, it doesn't really work. So I just want to talk about that for a second because it is the biggest issue, one of the biggest complaints in the game at the moment. Next, I want to talk about some quality of life mods for the economy system in Manor Lords. This is going to be the bigger part of the video. Obviously, the combat and warfare is great, but Manor Lords is a city builder first and foremost. So some of the issues in the game right now are more specific towards the economy system. First up, we have Storage Plus Plus, basically increasing the capacity of all buildings. Must have, in my opinion, if you want to increase the saw pit max log storage using this mod here. You can do specifically for that building, but these two will conflict with each other. So I would recommend using Storage Plus Plus. Hand in hand with this though, more resources is really good as well. This basically increases all of the resource capacities of all the resources across the map to nicely kind of complement the increase in storage space as well. There's also free skills, which is interesting. What this means basically is that, Manor Lords is a multi-region economy. It's limited in terms of development points so that you are incentivized to expand into another region to make use of its farming, fertility rates, its rich mining resource, etc. Whereas if you have this mod installed, you can have a single region become a massive powerhouse of an economy. And that's quite cool. It basically means that other regions can be much smaller villages while you focus on building up and growing a major city in a single region, which is a different style of gameplay, basically, versus the multi-region economy system that the game is built on. We all know that Manor Lords specifically makes it really difficult to produce ale as well. So there are a few mods that try to fix this, ranging from very specifically Why is the Ale Always Gone, which increases 4 times ale per malt, which is quite good. But also, if you're looking for more warbow damage, this also adds 3x warbow damage, which is actually higher than the others in this list. So definitely recommend you try out this one if you want to have a two-pronged approach, increase ale production and increase warbow damage. There's also Jesus Ale Tech, which basically gives you the option to remove the need for barley and malt completely, which I'm not a fan of. I don't really like removing mechanics completely to make things work, and I think it's a little bit overkill. So I don't really recommend it. Now, if neither of those mods appeal to you, there is also a full overhaul mod that tries to rebalance the economy for Manor Lords. It is called, as you can see, Eco Rebalance, super easy to download and install, and it does affect every aspect of your economy. So first off, we've got a farming buff, which basically means you 2x the production line process from wheat to bread and barley to ale. For the barley and ale part, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's much more balanced, I would say, compared to before where you're constantly running out of ale. But for the bread side, I think it's a little bit too much. If you produce 1 wheat, you now get 8 bread, which is quite a lot. I think that needs to be reduced to at least 3 or 4. And then we have clothing, which basically what's been done here is that dyes have been removed as a requirement, which I think is quite good. Berries are usually always in shortage, so I didn't quite like that dyes were always being used for clothing, clothes, cloaks. It didn't really make sense to me. It has been instead replaced with linen and yarn, which makes much more sense. And finally, we have a rebalance from a trade perspective for wood and iron-based goods. So tools and wooden parts are very easy to produce. They are now worth less in terms of trade. Spears and polearms are more sophisticated products. They've been increased in value a lot more. And also warbows now require planks and yarn, and shields have leather as an added requirement. So there's plenty of good stuff, I think, in terms of more sophisticated, more complicated production processes for these products, and it makes trading them more valuable as well. Finally, I just want to mention, if you're going through some optimization issues, some stuttering, performance issues, especially to do with your CPU, there are 2 mods here you can try out. The first is MLSPF, which definitely improves it across the board. I've gained about 10 to 15 FPS in various places, and my stuttering has basically been reduced. So this is one I definitely recommend. And specifically, if you're having CPU issues, anti-stutter high CPU priority is a must. It basically enters a registry to enable high CPU priority. So this is a really good one to have as well. And that's essentially it for today, guys. What I've recommended here is a list of mods that I've tried that I think are pretty good. There are some mods here I haven't tried yet, like better upgrades. There's the texture upscale project or the mercenary pull fix. Some of these look really good. I just haven't had the time to try them all. There's also some unique third-person Lord model mods, like for Geralt of Rivia or Henry from Skalitz and Kingdom Come Deliverance, and some more explicit ones that we won't get into. Some mods that change up the banners, the a coat of arms, there's some graphic mods that add reshade presets, lots of really great mods here that I haven't tried yet, but this has been my video to go through the mods that I recommend for the game right now. It's important to keep in mind that this is, as I said, early access, so with future updates, they will break your saves, and your mods won't be compatible with them. You'll have to re-download them and wait for the mods to actually be updated into the latest version of the game, etc. So keep all of that in mind when you play a modded playthrough of the game. I really hope you enjoyed this video and found it informative. If you did, give it a like and drop any thoughts or questions in the comment section below, and let me know what you think about all the mods I've described and recommended today. Subscribe to the channel for more Manor Lords content, news, and gameplay just like this, and thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.